flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our first article comes from Mike Wilkinson at Bridge, Michigan, and their coronavirus tracker. COVID-19 cases in Michigan continued to fall in the past week, this time at a rate of 4%. The past week saw just 9,266 reported new cases, as well as a 7% reduction in deaths, with 120 in the past week compared to 131 in the week before. In comparison, hospitalizations, unlike cases and deaths, was on the rise over the past week, marked at 1,246, the highest number of hospitalizations due to COVID since late February. In fact, February 25th, to be exact. That being said, in terms of testing numbers, the percentage positive also fell over the past week from 13.7% to just 13.4%. Also making headlines today from Clara Hendrickson at the Detroit Free Press. The election is less than a week away, and making waves in the city of Detroit is Republican Secretary of State candidate Christina Caramo, but not in the good way, not in the polls. Caramo this week provided quite a jarring defense of a recent lawsuit requesting a court order to reject thousands of absentee ballots in the city of Detroit for the upcoming midterm, taking issue with procedures in counting those votes and in particular in verifying signatures of absentee voters. A similar claim to what she backed following the 2020 election and then President Donald Trump and his camp's false claims of fraud in places across key battleground states such as Michigan and key population centers in Michigan, such as the city of Detroit. This is, of course, not winning any favor for the GOP challenger in the city, as she is seeking to only count in-person votes submitted in Michigan's largest city, a city with a majority Black population. Detroit resident Shirley Miles said as to what she believes is the rationale behind Caramo's lawsuit, quote, "This is a Black city, and those that are not Black are low income. That is why, and that is wrong," and closed quote. Thousands in Detroit have already submitted their votes by absentee ballot. As of Monday of this week, 82,941 absentee ballots have been sent out to voters, and the voting public in Detroit has returned 47,932 of those absentee ballots, or about 57.79% of those sent out. Now, in the case that this lawsuit is hypothetically correct, those ballots would then be spoiled, and these individuals would still have a chance to vote. They would still be able to go to their local polls and vote. However, as was said by the 73-year-old quoted in this article, that being Shirley Miles, a Detroit resident, many of the people in the city of Detroit that are voting by absentee ballot are those in low-income populations, are those in minority populations. And many people in the city of Detroit, it's been an ongoing problem for decades in the city, do not have reliable access or affordable access to transportation to get them to their polls. And so in this case, that's why, with no reason absentee voting that was approved by ballot resolution by the voting public across the state of Michigan in 2018, why you're seeing so many voters, particularly in place like the city of Detroit and other population centers, as well as in many other places with a variety of different populations, socioeconomic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, and so on and so forth, voting by absentee ballot. So targeting one city in particular, that being the largest city, which happens to be a majority Democratic voting city, not entirely surprising from the Caramo campaign. We'll talk more about this later on. We have Dave Dulio from Oakland University on today's edition of the Megacast at the bottom of our show, and at about 40 minutes into today's program, we'll be joined by Dave Dulio to talk about all things election, with it just being 6 days away. But very interesting article. I highly suggest that you read this entire article from Clara Hendrickson at the Detroit Free Press, as well as supporting materials to really get the full scope of the story here, the rationale as well from the Caramo campaign behind this lawsuit. And of course, more information to stay up to date there while you're over at the Detroit Free Press's website, or any of these websites from these publications from these articles on our website each and every day. We highly encourage you to subscribe to these publications and support local journalism like what's being done by Clara Hendrickson and the team at the Detroit Free Press. Finally, today, making headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Also from the Detroit Free Press, this time from reporter Tanya Wilt. A Michigander just became a millionaire, and while we're doing this show today, so you can count at least 3 people, myself and the 2 on our crew, out of the pool of potential winners. That being said, the $1 billion Powerball jackpot continues to increase as no player across the country hit the full set of correct numbers and the Powerball on Monday. However, a Traverse City ticket was a winner, raking in 1.2 million smackers on the numbers 13, 19, 36, 39, 59, and a Powerball of 13. Those were the winning numbers. The Traverse City resident had all 5, not including the 6th number, which is the Powerball. The Traverse City ticket was one of just 10 across the nation that matched all 5 of the white balls, but missed the Powerball. The other winning tickets were sold in California, Florida, Indiana, New York, Texas, and unfortunately in Ohio. All those headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page, along with those helpful links to COVID-19 updates from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great show ahead on this Wednesday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll be talking to a couple of individuals from Detroit City Distillery and Bees in the D. It is honey bourbon season coming up very soon. They'll be back on the market. They'll join us to talk about their once-a-year release of this product and tell you when it hits the market. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Of course, you can always keep up to date on our show, find all of our full episodes and each individual interview on demand at civiccentertv.com/megacast and learn more about all the different TV, radio, and streaming outlets that join us each and every day, live from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. and throughout the afternoons, evenings, and the weekends for replays and live to tape as well. civiccentertv.com/ Megacast. Well, around the holiday season, every single year, it's one of the busiest times of the year for our friends at the Detroit City Distillery and Bees in the D as they release one of their many specialty products that's released all throughout the year, their honey bourbon. This is coming out in November, in just a couple of weeks here in November. Joining us now from Detroit City Distillery is their brand ambassador, Garrett Pasiak, as well as the founder of Bees in the D, Brian Peterson, on today's edition of the Megacast. Thank you both for being with us today, live from Detroit City Distillery.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad to have you both on. Glad to have both of you back on with us again. We've had you both on several times to talk about your businesses, your organizations, and all the great work that you do all throughout the year. But this is a special time of the year. You know, people love this particular product. They line up for it. They're getting ready for it. They're sitting at their computers the second that it's ready for release, and it sells out quick every year. So let's go back a little while to when this partnership first began between Detroit City Distillery and Bees in the D to create this honey bourbon. And Garrett, let's start with you. How did this partnership from your side of things begin with Brian and his team at Bees in the D?
Well, what we did is a couple years back, we said, you know something, there's a lot of collaboration going on with Bees in the D, with a lot of rooftop beehives and everything like that. And it's fun. We have bourbon, but around the holiday season, you want to go ahead and create something a little bit more special and limited. So that's when we reached out to Bees in the D's, and that's where we met Brian. So
yeah. And by the way, we also have hives right here on the roof over our heads right now at the factory. And that's where it all started. But then we're like, honey and bourbon, what a great mix.
Yeah, it really is a great partnership between two Detroit organizations that are both quite beloved in the city and throughout the Metro Detroit area as well. And that's why you see such a great response from this product. So then, Garrett, from your side of things, we know how we have an idea of how Brian and his team of Bees in the D are able to collect the honey. And of course, that those products are available all throughout the local area from Bees in the D. But how do you then incorporate that into a bourbon, especially once a year, getting ready for this time of the year and its annual release?
So what it is so we have the honey bourbon here. So what we're doing is Brian, Bees in the D, they go ahead and they'll age the honey in a used bourbon barrel. And then once that is extracted and put into this amazing tasting honey here, we then take our original butcher's cut bourbon and we put that into the barrel and age that. So it has a honey finish. So if you're looking for a sweet honey style whiskey, this isn't it. This is a very, very nice, high quality, just honey instant taste at the end of it because it's soaking in a used honey barrel. So that's how we do it.
And so timing, I would imagine
is,
please go ahead. Sorry about that.
I was going to say, fun things to do with it. You can make, we call the honey old fashioned. Literally take 2 ounces of that honey bourbon and put that in a glass. Want a couple dashes of that cinnamon bitters. Little Angostura. Then, of course, Brian's famous honey there. Just a little pour of that. Start with a simple syrup. Add ice. Give that a stir. And boom.
Yeah, it's versatile too. So much that you can do. It's a great gift too for the holiday season, and it goes on sale November 11th. Of course, that's just 9 days away. Next week, it will go on just a little over a week from now. It will go on sale November 11th. DetroitCityDistillery.com/shop for more information. DetroitCityDistillery.com/shop to get that product when it comes out on November 11th. Brian, from your side of things, of course, we know from what Garrett had said that the way that they produce this particular product, this bourbon from Detroit City Distillery, is by soaking the bourbon in the honey barrels that you're then collecting. Then you've, of course, collected honey from hives all across the Metro Detroit area, including in the city of Detroit. And as you said, right up there on the roof at Detroit City Distillery. I would imagine this time of the year, things are maybe a little less busy for those bees than in the warmer seasons of the year. So then how do you then focus on collecting enough to create the specialty product and also to fulfill all the products for the remainder of the year when you get toward the colder seasons of the year and those bees decide, all right, we're going to take a break for a little while?
Yeah, I'm in the final stages of winterizing all of our hives, and that's just giving them a little bit of a supplemental feed. Some of our hives, like the ones on the roof here, I'm going to wrap them to keep them a little bit sheltered from that cold wind, and also doing some mite treatments because unfortunately there's a lot of diseases and parasites that can cause problems. But then, yes, the bees don't hibernate as a lot of people think. They actually form a winter cluster, vibrate, creating heat from friction, and they keep the queen warm all winter long, but live off of their honey stores. But that then gives us, me, I should say, the beekeeper, a rest. But now we're starting to send out all of our honey to the different organizations like Detroit City Distillery that have invested in us so that they can now take that sweet goodness and use it for products like this or in their restaurant, or we'll bottle it up and have it for sale.
So then over the colder months of the year when your bees are in sort of that hibernation state and aren't working to create more honey that's being produced then as it is over the warmer months of the year, how then does your organization transition from the work being done with the bees to more of an advocacy or educational front during the winter and the early part of the spring?
Exactly. So this is our time to really get the word out of the importance of the bees, to do fun projects like this with Detroit City Distillery and other organizations. It's just a great opportunity for us to continue to get the word out, but we're just not doing some of our in-hive events because obviously the bees are in the winter months.
Again, more information can be found on the specialty product that will be released on November 11th. DetroitCityDistillery.com for more info, and DetroitCityDistillery.com/shop to get more information as well, and to buy the product on November 11th when it is released. You can also learn more about Bees in the D by going to their website, beesinthed.com, as well for information on educational info, their events throughout the city and the metro area, and how you can get involved with Bees in the D all throughout the year as well. beesinthed.com. Garrett, for you and your team, as we approach the release date on November 11th, what do you suggest for those that are itching to get some honey bourbon for themselves, certainly for some others that they're looking to gift some this holiday season, to make sure they get in line at the perfect time, because this sells out relatively quick?
It does sell out relatively quick, within a couple hours usually. So this year we are submitting a limited amount in grocery stores. So your local, here in Southeast Michigan, go ahead and check, go ahead and ask, see how many they're getting. But I always suggest it's a fun activity to go ahead and order it online. Now it goes on sale at DetroitCityDistillery.com in the shop link at 8 a.m. I suggest waking up in the morning, getting a cup of coffee, hop on that computer at 7:30, and right when 8 a.m. hits, just keep clicking on that shop link, get it right there, and then come down and join us at 4 p.m. on November 11th. We're having a honey release party. It's great to come down to Eastern Market and experience that pickup full hand of the honey bourbon. We're going to have amazing honey cocktails, just like this one we made here, and it's a great experience. So hop on those computers first thing in the morning, November 11th by 8 a.m.
As Garrett said, 8 a.m. at DetroitCityDistillery.com/shop. And then, as he also mentioned, their release party, 4 p.m. November 11th at Eastern Market, 4 p.m. November 11th at Eastern Market. So mark your calendars as well, especially on that day while you're waiting for 8 a.m. to roll around. It's a great time to put that on your calendar, or do it now. Get ready for that release party at 4 p.m. at Eastern Market on November 11th. We're joined by brand ambassador Garrett Pasiak from Detroit City Distillery, as well as the founder of Bees in the D, Brian Peterson, on today's edition of the Megacast. Again, you can shop for honey bourbon this season on November 11th at 8 a.m. for their release, and their other products as well at DetroitCityDistillery.com, and get involved with Bees in the D all throughout the year and learn more about the work that they do, advocating for the bees as well as producing great products right here in the state of Michigan at BeesInTheD.com. Brian, I do want to go back to you, because you mentioned early on in the interview that you have a hive on top of the facility at Detroit City Distillery, as well as many other locations throughout the Metro Detroit area. When did that idea really come into place to put these hives in urban areas as well as other areas in Metro Detroit? And how does that really work out? Are the bees happier? Do they work a little bit harder even in those urban areas? I would imagine it's pretty busy and loud, and that might affect them.
Yeah, so it came about actually right from the beginning of our concept of what we were doing in Detroit City Distillery was one of our first supporters. You know, bees are referred to as superorganisms. Well, I refer to Detroit City Distillery as a super supporter because they have supported us unbelievably with this product, with the bees up on the roof. And actually bees do better in an urban environment because there actually is more diversity of plant life in the vacant lots. Because we do have bees in rural areas and in suburban areas, and our urban bees outperform the bees in our other areas. So it's pretty cool. And what I love about this too is it's Detroit takes care of Detroit. You know, DCD, as we call them, Detroit City Distillery, is taking care of bees in the D, but we're also helping to come up with some great products. And what's even better about this is at that event on the 11th, there's going to be others involved too. We're going to have Time and Honey here with a bourbon charcuterie board. We're going to have a Pingree products available, which is recycled leather. You can get some pretty cool coasters. So it's becoming bigger and bigger with more and more Detroit organizations. And that's what our two organizations are all about. Collaborations and working together in Detroit, taking care of Detroit.
Again, the release of the Detroit City Distillery and Bees in the D Honey Bourbon Specialty Product, 8 a.m. on November 11th, DetroitCityDistillery.com/shop. Their release party at Eastern Market, 4 p.m. Same day, November 11th, 4 p.m. at Eastern Market for a whole lot of more fun and interaction with both Bees in the D and Detroit City Distillery. You can follow both of these organizations on social media. Instagram for Detroit City Distillery is at Detroit City Distillery. Twitter at Detroit City DIST. Bees in the D. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Bees in the D. Garrett, Brian, thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure as well. BeesInTheD.com for more information on Bees in the D and to purchase this product from both them and Detroit City Distillery. One more time, 8 a.m., November 11th. Mark your calendars. Get ready early. DetroitCityDistillery.com/shop. We'll take a break on the Megacast. Coming on the other side of the break, we'll talk to a Dearborn-based apparel company that launched during the pandemic to pride itself on consistent and sustainable cycle of producing contemporary, ready-to-wear, and modest clothing products. Joining us next on the program from Studious Monday, Nawal Al-Asad joins us next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes State, including My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and individual interviews on demand. Again, one more time, the website, civiccentertv.com/megacast for all of that. Joining us now on the Megacast is Nawal Al-Saeed. She is a founder and CEO of Studious Monday, founded in 2020 with a focus on creating a consistent and sustainable cycle of contemporary, ready-to-wear, and modest clothing products. Nawal, thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me, Tyler.
Yeah, glad to have you on with us. Your company is called Studious Monday. You're the founder and the CEO. Tell us about the process that you went through to find this company and to create these products. Where did this idea come from?
So I've spent the last 10 years of my career at the intersection of children and family services, moving through various disciplines of education and public health. And most recently with the center thriving, I decided to shift my focus to Studious Monday, a new business venture that has always been a passion of mine. Fashion has always been a dream. And now with having the means, I decided to make it a reality.
And of course, you can learn more information, see all the products, learn about Nawal and her story about Studious Monday by going to studiousmonday.com, where of course you can also shop for these products as well. And one of the common themes that is presented through your products and certainly through your story is modesty, but also creating contemporary and fashionable products that all fit under that same umbrella and maybe aren't as flashy as we see in modern fashion, but certainly look excellent and are quality products. Tell us about the background on that and where that idea of creating these contemporary products, these certainly very fashionable products, but modest looking, came from.
So our brand's fashion aesthetic is everyday staple pieces. We are really focused on helping women build a sustainable wardrobe. We work with natural fibers, well-made items that can last a lifetime. We believe in striking a balance between bold and subtlety. And our audience is working women that need functionality with their clothes. And, modesty is our essence. It's not to say that modesty is exclusive to a certain group of women. I think modesty is a concept that is expansive and is a value that many women of various traditions practice and believe. So there's a niche, there's a need. And I've done the research. There's definitely a market for it. And women, professional women, need more options. We need more choices. And this is especially true for minority women.
Yeah, and we hear these stories here and there that pop up, or we hear issues brought up with modern day products, and particularly in clothing, and particularly for women that aren't really fitting the modern lifestyle of a modern woman, and still are very much archaic practices. And so it's important that women have that kind of a voice in fashion, but also it's really cool to see when women are able to take some control in this industry and create products for each other in this sort of way. And that's what makes Studious Monday so impressive. More information can be found at studiousmonday.com. And I do want to continue on that for you. You have mentioned that this is a company and that your practices in this company and in your employment base really do base itself around women creating these products for other women. Talk about that some more and expand on that and why that became such a driving focus for you in finding this company and certainly in operating this company, to have heavy involvement from women on the front lines of creating these products, of course, for women.
Well, I mean, no one's going to know what a woman is feeling like or what a woman needs if it's not another woman. So I think, it's really just as simple as that. It's important that we have women creating products for women, professional women creating products for professional women. There's an understanding between these women because we have a shared story, we have a shared human experience, and who better to provide for each other than each other.
Again, more information can be found on Studious Monday, including their products, their process, their story, as well at studiousmonday.com. Studiousmonday.com for more information. Another great thing I love about your website is you have a link that's simply put transparency. It tells everything that you need to know about how these products are made and where they're made, and especially in the modern age, as we've learned over the past 20 years, 30 years, and so on, about the fashion industry, about the clothing industry, and some of the really horrendous practices that are being employed across the world and still are in many cases, that you have companies that are transparent about how they create their products and are doing so in a way that is ethical. Tell us about that and the process that you went through to create products that, of course, are going to bring in sales and are going to be profitable and make it a fruitful business for you, but also not put profits ahead of ethics.
Absolutely. It took some time. Development and planning definitely took some time before we could launch. We really wanted to keep it local. So, we did I did my vetting with manufacturing here in Michigan, across the U.S. as well. And then also, I support the global community as well. And there are some amazing ethical co-ops internationally that, could use the business to, considering, imperialism and capitalism and, our international families, are in need. And as an American brand, I take an immense amount of responsibility because of my privilege as an American brand. We have a lot of resources here in the U.S. and Studious Monday is about living its values. So we want to promote transparency. We want to promote business, locally and internationally. We want to be a part of the global, fashion is global. We want to be part of the global community. We have a great message and we want to share that message. And I have resources and I have privilege. And as an American brand, I have an immense amount of responsibility to doing better. And that's what we're about. That's what Studious Monday is about. So yes, it is important, obviously, to, be mindful of sales and profits. But I think that the scale is so vast that profits can still be made, as well as maintaining ethics and morals.
That's what is really impressive about Studious Monday and its way of doing things differently than has been done across the fashion industry, across the clothing industry for so many years. More information can be found at studiousmonday.com. Click on transparency. You'll see more information about how they create their products in places like Detroit and in Lansing here in Michigan, other locations across the U.S. and internationally in places like Pakistan as well. Studiousmonday.com for more information on that. And I'd be remiss, Nawal, if I didn't give you an opportunity to discuss some of the products that are available through Studious Monday. If people would like to do some shopping, they love what you're all about, just like I do, and they like to do some shopping and get some clothing here, and especially as we go into the holiday season, great time for gifts as well.
Yeah, so our first collection was really focused on basic wear. And, I was, and now that I feel like I've completed and I've really understood and I've set up the fundamentals of basic wear for Studious Monday, for the second collection, which just launched, we decided to be a little bit more colorful, and we incorporated, textures such as corduroy. I really leaned into the mod scene of the 1960s and the 1970s. It was a transformative era in the fashion in the fashion world. And it was also a time where functionality was considered when making clothing, through corduroy. Corduroy is a very it's made tough. So we used corduroy, we used recycled polyester, and we also used some wool, considering that it's an autumn-winter collection, and some mix and match sets and ensembles, and just a really beautiful color story that incorporates warm and frosty hues for the autumn-winter season. And we've got jackets, we've got blazers, pants and skirts and dresses, and a lot of mix and matching and a lot of ensembles. We wanted to highlight versatility and functionality, and that's what we did with Modest Mod. Our collection for this season is called Modest Mod.
You can go to their website, studiousmonday.com. Click on Modest Mod to explore their products and do some shopping yourself as well. We thank you so much for joining us today, telling us about Studious Monday, your quite incredible story and really admirable process for creating these products right here in Michigan, right here in the U.S., and as well as with participation ethically all across the world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
StudiousMonday.com is the website for more information. We'll take a break here on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll be joined by Dave Dulio, professor of political science, as well as the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. As we are less than a week away from the election, we have a surging challenger in the Attorney General's race, some controversy from the Republican challenger for Secretary of State, and of course, a head-to-head matchup between Republican challenger Tudor Dixon and incumbent Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Dave Dulio will join us next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Keith. Learn more about our program, find us on demand, and learn more about all of our partnering TV, radio, and streaming outlets across the Great Lakes State on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find our shows on demand. We're just a few days away from the election, less than a week away from November 8th and Election Day. And joining us now to talk about all the latest updates in the news leading up to this election and all those key races and down ballot as well is Dave Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University, where he also serves as the director for its Center for Civic Engagement. Dave, thanks for being with us again.
Hey, good morning, Tyler.
Morning to you as well. It's been an interesting week of news since we had you on last time. A lot of updates, and in particular, I think the biggest one is in the race for Attorney General, where we are really seeing a narrowing gap between Dana Nessel and GOP challenger Matthew DePerno. Last time we talked, we had spoken about that margin being closer than it had ever been before, but still being in favor of Dana Nessel. And part of the issue with Matthew DePerno's campaign has been a lack of name recognition behind him, even within his own party. Now we're seeing in a recent Detroit News poll that was partnered with WDIV TV in Detroit, or Channel 4, that polled about 600 general election voters. That's got a dead heat there between Dana Nessel and Matthew DePerno, with Nessel, the incumbent, up just by 1 percentage point over Matthew DePerno, and well within the margin of error. What do you believe is the biggest factor, the biggest factors behind DePerno being able to narrow this gap, especially so late in the election cycle?
Yeah, Tyler, I think it's two things. One is, and we see this in other races as well as they get closer. The Republicans are coming home, and they are sort of galvanizing around their candidates. They are folks who may have been unsure of the Republican general election candidates even a month ago, but are now making their decisions and saying, okay, I am going to vote for Matt DePerno as a Republican. And the other thing, that I think is happening is, frankly, I think that the tightening here says more about Dana Nessel than it does Matt DePerno, right? Matt DePerno has not done much to bring voters his way. And that's not a knock on him. That's just a fact of campaign spending, right? He just doesn't have the money to message and communicate with voters the way that Dana Nessel does, or even other Republican candidates. But, Nessel's, well, I'll put it this way. Other Republican groups have done a good job of pointing out some negative things about Dana Nessel, whether it's the drag queen in every school, a comment that she made from a month or so ago, a couple months ago, or other things, right? I mean, I think that it's more about her unpopularity than it is about DePerno's popularity.
Yeah, Nessel's certainly not one to shy away from letting their sense of humor out, and in an election that's this serious and with this much vitriol from both sides of the aisle, that can definitely be a negative. And that's one of the reasons I do agree with you, why we're seeing Dana Nessel's margin of lead over Matthew DePerno shrinking now to just 1%. And I think the best piece of evidence to that mostly being a referendum on these two candidates in particular, and mostly on the incumbent Nessel, is the polling numbers in the other key races at the top of the ballot here in Michigan, with Christina Caramo, the GOP challenger in the Secretary of State's race, down about 10 percentage points on Jocelyn Benson in that same Detroit News and WDIV TV poll. And then at the gubernatorial level, that same poll has Governor Whitmer up about 8.6% over Tudor Dixon at this time. So still, close races, but nowhere near as close as that race between Dana Nessel and Republican challenger Matthew DePerno for Attorney General. Also making headlines this week in the Secretary of State's race, Christina Caramo making some big waves in the largest population center in the state of Michigan, in Detroit, as she had filed a lawsuit seeking a court order that would reject thousands of absentee ballots in the city of Detroit. And essentially her hope would be to have Detroit voters need to have the votes counted only from in-person voting. How does this affect her chances here in the state of Michigan, in particular, because Detroit's historically been a Democratic voting city? I don't think that something like this would be very consequential in helping Christina Caramo win many more votes in the city of Detroit, but certainly is going to have an impact because it continues along those same lines that we saw post the 2020 election, where with concerns of election fraud from the GOP, particularly in the city.
Yeah, I don't think she's not going to win. I don't think that that's even a consideration. I think that what you see in the DePerno Nessel race, you don't see in this Caramo Benson race. Republicans are galvanizing around their candidate. That's why she's down 10 points and or more, right? I mean, and Jocelyn Benson doesn't have the negatives that Dana Nessel does. I think, Republicans can point to the decision that Benson made in 2020 to send out voter or absentee ballot applications to all voters in Michigan and point at that as something they don't like. But it doesn't compare to the negatives that Nessel has. And Christina Caramo just hasn't helped herself in any way. That lawsuit's going nowhere, and I think that it just is it might be just the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it's kind of how I saw it too, because it's questionable this late in the game to come out with that lawsuit. It's questionable at any point in the campaign to come out with that. I mean, maybe it's a last-ditch attempt to bring in more voters on the right, but I would think in that case that she's going for those voters, those that would be favorable to something like this are already favorable to a campaign like her. So a questionable move from Christina Caramo in that race.
And I think she's down 10%. It just seems like it's an attention-getting move, right? Where, with no other attention, no other earned media, no other paid media, she's trying to get some attention. And, I'd be curious to have been in those meetings deciding to file that lawsuit, right? Because absentee ballots, vote by mail in that regard is a constitutional guarantee in Michigan. So I don't get it, but I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think that's going anywhere.
We're joined by Dave Giulio from Oakland University on today's edition of the Megacast. He is a professor of political science and the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. In the gubernatorial battle, that same poll from the Detroit News and Local 4 in Detroit has Governor Whitmer leading Republican challenger Tudor Dixon, with Whitmer having currently in that poll 51.7% of the state's support compared to Dixon's 43.1%. We saw in the last debate, we've already talked about the impact that the last debate had immediately on those two campaigns and what we saw in that last really public outlook from both of these candidates toward the other campaign. In the last 6 days or so before the election and leading up to Election Day itself, what does Tudor Dixon have to do? What do you believe is going to be her strategy in these final days before the election to try to bridge that gap? Still very much doable, but still even within the smaller margin that it is compared to the Caramo and Benson race, and slightly larger than it is, of course, the Nessel-DePerno race, it's still very much in Whitmer's favor.
Yeah, I would also point out too that there's other polling out there that's got it tied, and I think that that gets to and that's done by a group called the Trafalgar Group. Right. They're a GOP firm, but they have had a really good track record in the last couple of cycles, especially at the state level, of getting their last pre-election poll correct. So I think that that's something to look at. I'm not saying that the race is tied. I'm not saying that Mrs. Dixon's going to win, but I think that it's probably somewhere between tied and Whitmer up 9. I think if the election were held today, she would win, but it's not held today. They've got another 6 days to campaign for all those in-person votes. And and the other thing, and maybe we can come back to this, right, is the absentee votes that are still out there. But in terms of what Dixon needs to do and what she's going to do, I think she's going to continue to hammer away on a couple of issues: the economy, as well as the response of the Whitmer administration to COVID in schools. I think that was the memorable moment, or one of the memorable moments for me, was in the debate when Gretchen Whitmer said that kids were out of school for 3 months. And I think we talked about that last week. But parents, they have a different memory, and it maybe is true that only the governor's order applied to a 3-month shutdown of schools, but kids were out for a lot longer than that. I think that the Republicans are going to use that as a hammer and keep hitting the governor with it.
We've seen both these campaigns continue to get out on the road across the state of Michigan and bring in some of their political friends from all across the country in order to make that final push. Governor Whitmer recently having an appearance in the city of Detroit and with former President Barack Obama, and then Tudor Dixon also touring the state with a variety of different Republicans that have come in to join her on her campaign in these final days. In the middle of the ballot, we're continuing to see a very intense battle for some of these House of Representatives and Senate battles at the state level, and House of Representatives battles at the federal level. And there's just a report in the Detroit Free Press this week. It's really interesting, looking at the most expensive political campaigns in the entire country. And tied for number one is that battle for the 7th congressional district in mid-Michigan between Tom Barrett and Alyssa Slotkin, tied with the Nevada 3rd district at $27 million, as we are approaching. And that's just a ridiculous amount for any campaign. But as we're approaching the final days of the election, just how close is that gap, and how indicative with that amount of money is it to just how close of a race there is between Slotkin and Barrett?
Yeah, whenever you see that kind of spending from both sides, right? Those outside groups on the left and the right look at it as one that they that they can win, and one that they desperately want to win. And on the Democratic side, it's to keep an incumbent, it's to keep a sitting office holder, and on the Republican side, it's to pick off one of those, right, and to flip a seat. So you've got you've said it, right, in the $20-some million that have been spent so far, and there's going to be more in the last week because it's close, and every little bit might be able to help. Every ad that gets aired might turn one voter, and that might be enough.
We're joined by Dave Giulio from Oakland University, their director for the Center of Civic Engagement, as well as a professor of political science. This year's midterm election, November 8th, is election day, coming up less than a week away, and still plenty to happen in between now and then that will certainly have a big impact on the results on that day, or upwards of 24 hours, as it has been reported earlier on in the week from the Secretary of State's office for those results. Dave, anything else that we should be keeping an eye on as we're getting very close to election day?
Well, as I mentioned, right, there's still a lot of absentee ballots that remain out. I think that's an interest, and what's more interesting is the notice from the Secretary of State to those folks not to use the mail. And I get it, right, that there might be delays from the Postal Service. The Secretary of State's office is quick to point out that we have not seen those yet, but they're still encouraging folks to take those absentee ballots and drop them off, because they don't want to have any undue delays, right? Or have a chance that somebody's absentee ballot doesn't get counted. But that's an extra step, right? That's not supposed to be part of the absentee ballot process. People get absentees because they want to be able to do it at home and mail it back. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those outstanding absentees actually get turned in. I would also say that the Secretary of State's office and clerks around the state are getting out in front of potential delays in results where the absentees aren't going to get counted until the day of. That's a lot of ballots to count. And it might be a scenario that we saw last time around where election night results change as absentee ballots come in, because frankly, Democrats vote more absentee than Republicans. And you could be in a situation where you see Republicans lead when you go to bed on election night, and then the next day the Democrats have taken the lead in some of those races, and that's only going to fuel the doubts about the election integrity. It's going to be a similar scenario as last time, and I'm not sure what we can do about it except be transparent.
More information can be found and resources leading up to the election at oakland.edu/CCE. Dave, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
That will do it for this Wednesday edition of the MegaCast. Of course, you can find more information and keep up to date with us on civiccentertv.com/megacast. Go out and vote. If you haven't already by absentee ballot, you still can. And of course, you're going to talk to your local clerk's office in order to do that, or go to the polls on November 8th. That does it for today's MegaCast. We'll return very soon with a new episode.
This is My Michigan TV. Around here, we just call it My. This is My Michigan TV, a unique new streaming television network. To watch, simply add our app to your smartphone or smart TV. You can also watch online at mymytv.com. My Michigan TV. My.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Welcome to Mackinac Island.
I'm so excited to kick off the 2022 Pure